So I think somebody's going to do an introduction, and we're going to get started.
We'll give them just a few minutes. I think Nancy likes to give them just a few minutes in the beginning because they struggle to get on.
On average, Allstate agents do not pop in until 11:12. Generally, I've noticed they like to skirt it as late as possible.
Are we seeing? We've got 19 on.
This looks like everyone who's signed up. So
Okay.
missing 2.
Okay.
I'm back in.
Yay.
So we're gonna give them a couple more seconds before we get started. Or you guys
We only
ready?
have 1 more missing now.
Okay.
Well,
Well, maybe
unusual.
Let's go ahead and let's
Okay.
get going, and then they can jump in here as we go. So I thank you everyone for joining us today. Napa is very excited to and honored to have Mr. Mel Clemmons join us today on succession planning. Mel's his bio is just amazing. So go and look at it. We've got it in the Direct Express, I believe, and Ted we have it in a couple of different places for people to see. Yeah. But I mean, foremost is that Mel is a sought after writer, speaker, entrepreneur, and he has started, there's our, thank you for that bio, and everybody can read that themselves. But Mel comes to us today with a great amount of information. If you are looking to buy an agency or sell an agency, he is a great guy for you to get to know and to connect with. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Mr. Mel Clemmons, and thank you for being here today, Mel.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. So I thank you for the people who have joined. My name is Mel Clemmons. I am the owner of SAMM Consulting and Staffing. We focus on helping people buy insurance agencies. We do succession planning, we do evaluations, and we help people transition in or out of the business, and we operate as an intermediary. Today, we're going to be focusing on death and transition planning. I have no intention of talking for 45 straight minutes. That is not my nature nor my style. So this will be more Q&A, more interactive, and I see several people on the call. So some of the people on the call, I want y'all to help me participate. I want y'all to have questions. I want to make it interactive. I've been in the insurance business for 30 years. We've sold over $700 to $800 million worth of insurance agencies. We help a lot of agencies with succession planning. So we're going to start out with the first 10 or 15 minutes talking about death and transition and succession. We can talk about the evaluation of agencies, and we talk about where we see the status of the industry going. And all during that time, I want you to either raise your hand, send in questions, or we'll unmute you. I think everybody has the ability to unmute. If not, I think Nancy can unmute them when it's necessary. If not, we'll figure it out. All right, so this is my first one with this organization that I've been supporting for 10 to 15 years. So succession planning and death and transition planning is kind of like a wheel for your business. It's not a matter of if we're going to die. Everybody's going to die. I know y'all might not believe it. We all believe we're superheroes, that we're going to live forever, and our business will carry on like Moses did. But that is not what's going to happen. So major Fortune 100 and Fortune 500 companies all have a succession plan. In the mid-market range, we do not have a succession plan, which means we do not have a plan for the transition of our business. So I'm going to share my screen in a little bit, and we're going to ask a few questions about death and transitioning, what I named about succession planning. So I'm going to share my screen. Give me 1 second, and we're going to talk about this. Hold on 1 second. And we'll get started. All right. Okay, share my screen. I might have to get somebody's permission, but if not, Ted, can everybody see my screen?
Can see it.
All right. As an insurance agent, you need to be sure one of your greatest assets will be handled correctly when you pass. I call it death and transition. It's a critical part of a business. It's basically your will for your business. So the questions you need to ask yourself if you do not have a succession plan, number one, if I'm selling products, will the carrier I sell products for ensure that my family receives 100% of the value? If you work for any company, their goal is not for us to receive the most money we can get. Their goal is to represent themselves. We have to represent each other as agents, as business owners. Second question you need to ask yourself, is, do my loved ones know how to evaluate and sell my business? Most of us are either LLCs, S Corp. Some of us might be C Corps. C Corp is a little bit different, but if you're LLC or a sole proprietor, your business has to have a plan in place for the carriers to appoint somebody else to represent you in the time of your demise. And if you choose somebody, the question is, does anybody in my family know how to manage my business, how much the company owes me, and how to track it? The last significant question, does my family member or loved ones in place know who owes me money and who I know money to? If they do not know the answers to these questions, you need a succession or death and transition plan. It's basically going to help you reflect upon the state of your business after your death and know the necessary parts and process to transition it on. So I dealt with a lot of agents that have transitioned on. So what happens is, since I represent so many banks and so many transactions, a lot of people say, just call Mel when you pass. But the companies only give you a certain amount of time to sell, transition, or appoint somebody with your new carriers. I don't know who everyone's carrier is, whether it's State Farm, Allstate, Liberty Mutual, Farmers, whoever it is. There are certain criteria. So you want to have a succession plan in place. So the way I look at the succession plan is, number one, what are my options? So
hey, Mel, on this particular call, I was going to presume that 100% are all Allstate folks.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, we'll guarantee that up to 95%. In case we have 5% that are not, I'll speak a little more broadly. And I always use broad terms anyway, because I don't want to feel like arguing with these big carriers about petty stuff. And y'all know we argue with them about petty stuff. So I'll speak in broad terms. Normally, in most carriers, you have an option to sell your agency back to the company. In most companies, we call it TPP or contract value. That's option number one. So you're in a succession plan. If you don't want to sell your business on the open market, or if you don't want your family to take it over, you say, I'm going to turn it into the company and get my contract value or my TPP value, which is termination payment process. Now, it used to be 12 months for some carriers. Now it's up to 24 months that you receive a monthly payment. That's normally 150% of your annual gross income at some companies. Some companies could be 100%, could be 200%. But whatever it is, it's normally less than you can get on the open market. And then normally you have 90 days to transition from a standard contract to a contract value or TPP. The second option would be, I want to sell my book on the open market. So if you have intentions to sell your book on the open market, then you have to have a process in place, a broker, or somebody to evaluate your business, just like you evaluate your estate. But if you have not evaluated your estate and put the right parameters in place to know what the value is, your family or your lawyer or your attorney is going to be selling it blindly. So if you want your book to be sold in the event or after you die, then you want to have a valuation in place that's fluid. The third option that we have as business owners is we want to appoint someone to carry on the business once we're gone. That person will need to be licensed, P&C, life and health, sometimes securities, just depends on what type of agency you have. If you have security products, and of course they have to be securities licensed, or all the money that you have generated in securities will disappear. All right. So that was about 8 minutes of straight talking with no questions. So I want to see if anybody has questions so far about anything I said. And Ted or Nancy, do they have the ability to unmute if they want to?
They have the ability to unmute themselves.
Okay. So I see a lot of names on here. Anybody have a question right now about the first part of the conversation? And you should, because once you die, it's going to be too late.
Well, Mel, I'll jump in and ask the question, because I know we had a discussion here a while back about a friend of yours as well, or an acquaintance of yours. And in my position, I've talked to a number of spouses who husband or wife did not have a succession plan. And Allstate says, unless we have proof that you're allowed to talk to us about the agency, we won't talk to you.
Wow.
And if you don't have a will or some other legal document, they won't necessarily talk, will they?
Right. So the issue is, if you have 100% owned shares of a LLC or S Corp, that means you're the sole owner. That means nobody is authorized. So what they're going to have any carrier or any company wants to see an operating agreement or your standard procedures. In that operating agreement, you'll have to have it stated that if I'm not available, this person should speak on my behalf. Kind of like I think they call them a directive for medical. When people get sick in the hospital, you have somebody can speak on your behalf. You have to have the same thing for your business. So you'd have to have in your operating agreement, when you set up your LLC, this is what's supposed to happen when I die. These are the people that are authorized to speak on my behalf. Or you have other shareholders in your corporation who have an interest. If you have a contract with a carrier and it's with your LLC or with your corporation, and you have a president, a secretary, or a vice president or other shareholders, then legally companies can have the opportunity to speak with them.
But without such document, the companies won't talk to the representatives until they prove they have the right.
Yeah. So you're kind of in limbo, depending on who your market leader is, or depending on who's handling your case. Unfortunately, a lot of this is up to relationships. If you have a great relationship with the company, or your family did, then they might give them some information. But if you don't, they're not obligated to give them any information, and they have 90 days to liquidate your assets. So you want to have an operating agreement for your LLC, and all that's done in succession planning. When you do a succession plan, you're going to have a list of the trusted advisors, contact information, phone numbers. You say, these are the people who are authorized to speak on my behalf. Also in a succession plan, you're going to have a valuation on how much my business is worth at this stage. You know, obviously our business values change just like any other corporation. So it has to be fluid, but it's a starting point. Also in your succession plan, it's going to have passwords, your bank accounts, information, meaning these who are people I bank with. Because I'm dealing with 3 right now. The husband died. The wife is not on the bank account. She can't pay the employees because she's not authorized through ADP. She's not authorized to write a check because she's not on a corporation, nor does she know, other than employees, how much she actually owes the people. And all this happens while the clock is ticking on your greatest asset to be sold. I'll give you another story. I have one guy who had cancer. He had cancer for 2 years. He was in the MD Anderson Medical Center in Houston. He was probably a 5-year agent, $7 million agency. I talked to him about connecting, getting a succession plan. He never did it. He just said, I want to sell a book. But as you know, the insurance industry with certain carriers are going through a lot of turmoil and changes, and commission rates are changing. So it was a tough sell. So he didn't have a succession plan. He actually passed. Me and him worked together for 2 years. He bought his agency through me. He was selling it through me. But as you know, sometimes when the husband or the spouse or the agent of record passes, they didn't transfer the information on to their family members. So this family member decided, I don't know who SAMM Consulting is. I heard you charge 0.5% more than this other person. So we're not going to trust you, Mel, who's worked with your husband or dad for 2 years. They went out to somebody else. $7 million book. They gave to somebody else who they told they should trust to sell the agency. 90 days later, can anybody tell me what happened with that agency?
They had to take TPP.
They TPP. A $7 million book that should have went for $1.8 to $2 million, end up going back to the company for less than $600,000. That's what happens.
Yep.
We have a question about what do you do if you're an S Corp when there's no, technically on an S Corp, you know, you don't have to have any operating papers. But if I'm hearing you correctly, is that you need to go and do your own succession planning, get your own will, your own power of attorney, share with your spouse what they want to do, how you want this to happen. Because technically at Allstate, when you pass away, that contract has ended, period. It's done.
Yeah, because the contract is normally with the individual. But if your contract is with an entity, then the entity is still in place. But if the entity does not have any directions, there's no directions to follow. And just because in your state or your corporation, I don't know that to be true, but you're saying it to be true that you don't have to have an operating agreement, you still need one. It's just like if I'm selling a mansion with 40 devices in it, technical devices that operate the gym, that operate the doors, you need a manual. You have to have a manual for your corporation. And most of us are sole proprietor or sole member LLC. So we still need to have a manual. We need to operate our businesses in case we're not here. So yes, even without LLC operating agreement in place. And this is many terms. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know the actual correct term they have. Some people call it operating agreement, but there's also another term that they use. It's just instructions for your business. It's when you
Yeah.
sell your business, whether you have an operating agreement and you have LLC or S corp, you're gonna have to turn that in. The
Yeah.
bank is not going to allow you. Normally, sometimes banks don't follow the legal rules, but when you sell your business, there has to be an agreement for your shareholders to sell it. And I think
The
somebody
other
had a
thing,
question a
Mel,
minute ago. I saw somebody. Go
I
ahead.
was going to say the other thing you brought up is people need to realize that within Allstate, that TPP is a payout for 2 years, right, Ted? So
Yes.
even if they're deceased, I mean, it's so if they need money quickly to be able to take care of any type of bills or anything like that, that's going to be stretched out over 24 months before before they would actually get the TPP value for it.
And you're assuming that they don't have a loan. If you
Well,
have
it's
a loan and TPP is 600 and your loan is 700, they get their payment before you get anything.
right.
So in that succession planning that big companies like Accenture, any of the major M&A companies or consulting firms do, they list all that out. You list your debts, you list your cash flow. And the biggest thing we have to do in our succession plan is have a way for people to get in our computer. You got to realize, if I die today and my wife or my son or my staff can't get in my computer, well, I mean, I can't even log in to see the reports. I can't operate a customer. I can't check the email. I can't even reset the password to my bank account that is connected to my company email. So there's a lot of things to think about. And I want everybody. Go ahead, Ted.
Well, one of the things that we wanted to have the succession planning was on because some people on our All Agent page got on there and they claimed that Allstate has a bona fide succession plan. Well, they do have a succession plan where you can request to name someone as your key person to replace you. But that succession plan document is only good for 2 years, and it doesn't guarantee that Allstate will approve that person to take over as the owner as the operator of the corporation. Have you experienced that? I mean, it's out there. If you go to
let me say this as clear as I can, because people who have done business with me know I'm going to be unapologetically honest. That's just how I was raised. I make enough money. I can say what I want. Nobody can't do nothing to me. The company's purpose is not to protect us. If you think $1 billion company job is to protect you, you are sadly confused. That is not their goal. Their goal is to protect the $1 billion corporation and their shareholders. That's what corporations do. Our job as agents and independent business owners is to protect ourselves. So no, it's no way in the world I would wait on a company to tell me what my succession plan options are and trust them to do it for me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was the whole point, we tried to get across to the agency for. So I wanted to get the expert, Mel, to let the agents know that while the company is not going to be vicious or mean or cruel, their position is to protect the company's interest. And that contract states, upon your death or the death of the key person, the appointment is over with. Right. And you have to prove to the company that you, the spouse, have the ability to make transactions on behalf of the corporation. And without that succession plan, they're going to stonewall because they don't have any legal obligation to work with you. Right. Is that correct?
A lot of that is definitely correct. I want to explain, and also Ted knows this, but I'm always cautious with my language. As all of you all know, we do not have a contract. A contract has to be written in stone and enforced. We have a unilateral agreement in which one person makes a decision and we sign it or not. If we had a true contract, we wouldn't be having these conversations. We have a unilateral agreement and we're on the outside of that agreement. We sign it or we don't sign it. That's a unilateral agreement. So in that unilateral agreement, they state the language, as Ted was pointing out, that they have to make a decision and we have to accept it and we have a certain amount of time. And as one of my employees, co-workers once told me, corporations don't have feelings. And that's what we're dealing with. So you got to make sure you protect yourself. So the key thing I did, and let me tell you my why, because I told you what I do, and I told you a little bit of how I do it, but let me tell you my why. The reason I got into SAMM Consulting is because when they came out expected results in 05, 06, and 08, I think there's a 7 and 08, whatever the year was. Expected results mean a company arbitrarily went through, made up some rules and said, hey, you've been here 20 or 30 years. But now we say, if you don't sell this amount I just say hamburgers, because you always know, I always use broad terms. If you don't sell 20 hamburgers a month, Ted, we're going to terminate you. If you don't sell 20 French fries a month, we're going to terminate you. If you don't sell 15 homeowners policies, we're going to terminate you. That was expected results. So when I saw a lot of the guys that were older than me, seasoned, ran successful businesses getting terminated, number one, just because you know how to run an insurance agency does not mean you know how to evaluate it. And if you don't know how to evaluate it, does not mean you know how to sell it. So I saw people losing their greatest assets, not having the right procedures or parameters in place to sell the agency. So that's why I got into helping people do mergers and acquisitions, buying and selling the agency. Mm-hmm. Number two, when a lot of guys that I've gotten in business to retire from other industries, that bought insurance agencies through my tutelage and through my consulting firm, some of those guys would die. And their families would call me crying, and the bank would call me crying because the bank would potentially lose money. They just gave $1 million loan, TPP's $500,000, and then they're selling it or TPP in it. The bank loses $500,000, the corporation loses agent. They came to me because I wasn't smart enough to think this on my own. All the banks came to me and said, Mel, we have to have a plan. And I've been doing succession planning probably for about 8 years. I've been doing it unsuccessfully because it's like life insurance. You know how hard it is to sell our customers life insurance? Multiply that times 10. That's how hard it is for me to tell agents they need a plan in place for death. It's the same concept. Kind
of expensive no buy on their part, because if they have a concession plan going, their wishes hopefully will get honored, and their spouses and legal representatives will have an opportunity to know what they're talking about. But it could be from a $1 million agency, it could be $300,000 mistake not to have a succession planning or more.
Oh, no, way more than that. Way more than that. You got to realize not only the stress that you put on your husband, because you got to think, even if you say me and Ted, we can do that, man. It's 2020. Say me and Ted were married. Both of us know the insurance business. But if Ted leaves me and dies, I'm going to be a little emotionally distraught. I'm not going to want to sit around and talk about how to evaluate Ted's agency.
Right. It's unfair to your part. It's unfair to your partner.
It's unfair to your partner. Even if my partner
or family
the business, that's not going to be their thought process. My thought process is, okay, Ted's kids need to be taken care of. Our kids need to be taken care of. That's going to be the thought process.
You got a question up there, Mel. Do you see your question there?
Let me see. It showed up, then it disappeared. So tell me how.
Click on chat. It says, I have a will, estate plan, power of attorney, etc. Assuming we know what we value our agency, and as long as you know Allstate's current rules and guidelines to get a succession plan approved, can we pay you a flat fee to set up a succession plan from start to finish, or how do you do this?
All right, so let's do like, I'm a former school teacher, so we can go to SAMM Staffing and Consulting website for people who can do it at the same time. And over that, you got services, and under that, you got, and I'm not doing this a commercial for me, whether y'all buy one from me or from Accenture, whoever, I'm just showing you your options. So you can go to death and transition planning.
But you need to do it.
Yeah, you just need to do it. As Nike says, you just do it.
Just do it.
So you can go right there on SAMM Consulting, succession planning. And yes, there's a flat fee and a flat rate to get in succession plan. It's based on the size of your agency, how large it is, how long you've been in business, and number of locations. But yes, so what I'll do is, so that's a good question. I'm glad John asked that. Yes, if you have a will, that's good. Estate planning, that's good. You want to have your agency evaluated, because you said you're assuming you know your agency's value. Unless you sell 100 agencies a year, 20 agencies a year, you're guessing. You can call me a butthole all you want, but unless you sell agencies, you're guessing. That's like me selling a house in a market where I've never sold a house, and nothing else is sold in my neighborhood. But I'm saying, because Johnny sold his house 2 blocks away, 2 cities away, this is what my agencies are worth. You can look on the website. It's going to tell you $3 million agencies sometimes go for 600, sometimes go for $1.8 million. So the values of our agencies, because the commission rate changes, are all over the place.
Well, I think another good point, Mel, is that you've got these relationships with these banks. And selling my agencies 2 years ago, well, and it took me, it took me almost 2 years, was knowing what the banks need, being aware of that. What do those reports look like? I had no clue. And I even had somebody with me, my husband was an Allstate manager for years. It was very time consuming, and, just mentally it was so much. So having somebody that knows what they're doing as they're looking at those reports, and knowing those banks, like you do, you have those relationships, is really important. We've always kept two local bank relationships for exactly these types of things.
That's perfect, Leslie. This is the information that we normally collect to do our agency evaluation. Your metrics current and prior year, profit and loss statement current and year end, your TPP report, same thing, current and year end, commission, which we call CPN, same thing. It's always going to look at what it is now, where you ended last year. Brokered business, monthly cash flow, your staff payroll, and it used to be your auto baseline number, but now we look at your VC number. So that's some of the information that you'll need.
John asked a question or sort of implied, I want everyone to understand that if Allstate does approve an initial succession plan to change key person upon your death, Allstate does not have to honor that commitment. At that time of death even though you think you might have approval from Allstate, they can change their mind. So if you don't have Mel or someone like Mel having this succession plans as if Allstate is not going to approve, you're still in a difficult situation. It's going to cost you money.
Oh yeah. Just if we've been around, and I always say broadly because that's just who I am, if we've been on a carrier or company a certain amount of years, and all of us have been here at least 1 to 25 years, they make the decision and change whenever they get ready. Whenever they get ready, they make rules for who they want to enforce the rules for. We know this. If you've been around a company long enough, the rules change for who they want them to. So yes, just because you have agreement with your market leader and he says, yeah, I'm going to do this, but no, it changes. You want to have something in writing and somebody who represents you. It's like going to court without a lawyer to ask for child support or to ask for custody of your kids. Most of us won't do it. And if we've done it, which I've done it before, that's not a good position. People use my firm when they're threatening to be terminated, when they have going through divorce, when the company's accusing them of signing a TDOC the wrong time or forcing somebody to get life insurance and didn't do it. I represent agents. That's all I do every day. I got a great relationship with carriers, but they know I represent agents. My job is to make sure agents get treated fairly. And also when I sell our agencies, I make sure we get fair market value. I want that buyer and the seller to be happy. But yes, you want to have a plan in place and a backup plan, because I'm telling you, 90% of all insurance agents, this is all most of you all do. That's your greatest asset. Your retirement and dreams are built up in one agency because you've been doing it 20, 30 years. Some of us can tell you, but it came before we're employees. We had no intentions of owning a business. So our mentality is different. I came in and bought my way into the game, so my mentality is different. But if this is your greatest asset, you should at least have a succession plan. You should at least have evaluation. I mean, major corporations, this is not a conversation. It's only for mid-market companies. All large corporations have succession plans. All large corporations get their business evaluated because they can't afford to be guessing blindly. When we guess blindly, we lose 10 or 20, maybe 25% of our value, which is still a couple $100,000. But a lot of agents, they're either not educated or not comfortable. They want to sell it on their own. Number one, nobody wants to pay me until they get their $1 million or $5 million. I understand that. I say, would I pay Mel sometimes? Then I calculate, this is what you make with me. This is make without me. So somebody said the website again. So SAMM, SAMM Consulting, I'm putting it in there for everybody to see, is the website. www.SAMM Consulting. All right. So Ted, I'm going to take a couple, I can keep talking, so I have more information, but I want to take questions because I want to make sure we answer it. So
everybody asks questions, and you guys realize that Mel is still a successful Allstate agent with us. It has been for a number of years, probably 20 some years. So he knows both sides of it, what we do on an everyday basis, what the concerns are. And And I would assume that Mel has his succession planning all set up and going.
Yeah, I was trying to pull it up.
But you don't want to be like the guy I knew the poor lady I knew, 71-year-old lady up in Chicago 2-3 years ago. Her husband was an Allstate agent for 41 years. He died without a will. He died without any succession planning. Allstate would not talk to her. We got her an attorney. Allstate would not talk to the attorney. They made her go through probate. 6 months. But this poor 71-year-old lady had no income, couldn't sell the agency, couldn't do anything because she didn't talk to someone like Mel. Just think about your grandmother or your spouse, if you're in a certain age, like some of us are, about how devastating that is. No money, no one to talk to, period.
All right. I'm trying
Well,
to.
I asked the question, Mel, why,
Yeah.
I when I'm doing like expert witnessing and stuff so much, so many times we're talking to people, and it does come up. Why do people not make a will? Why do you, I mean, what is it that you see, like when you're talking to somebody, why do they say they don't have a will?
You know what? And I'll be honest, I'm in the same boat. I got a will, but it takes mental preparation. Now, like I hadn't updated my will in probably 8 years. And my business and my situation has changed 24.
Sure.
We should have a will updated annually. Leslie, how often should your will be adjusted in your opinion?
Well, I mean, to me, I think 3 years. I don't know if that's official or not, but
At least, right? At least 3 years.
yeah, I mean, especially, well, I mean, at my age, 60, when you start to have grandchildren and different things change, and well, even selling the business, I'm always flabbergasted, and I can get very passionate about it because you need a will. Even my poor little uncle that was he was a pauper. I mean, but I still made him sign a will so that I could take care of him.
Yes, it's just
it's even that minor versus that big, so
it's just sometimes it's a youth and immaturity, and also it's the immaturity of our immortality. Mortality is not something that people want to address. It's just like life insurance. But a will, number one, takes actually thought, concern, and care, and a little bit of detail. You have to actually sit down and say, okay, what do I really want to happen to my watch, to my business, to my money, with my wife, with my kids? But it's necessary. And it's just, some of us are first generation entrepreneurs. Some of us are first generation money. Like my dad didn't have a will. I mean, he had a decent job, but he didn't have a will. He didn't have a lot to leave me no way, but he could have left me a couple suits, but he didn't have that opportunity.
It takes time. It takes time.
Yeah. But yeah. It's so important, and it's so unfortunate. Like, it bothers me, like the guy, I won't say his name, he just died like probably a month ago, and I begged his family, and he did the right thing, except for getting the succession planning. He tried to sell the business. But he was in the health, the cancer center, concerned about selling the business. And it was hard for me to talk to him, because I like, you fighting for your life. Don't worry about your insurance agency. I'm going to get it done. But what I didn't expect is for the family, I guess he never made the transition. He never made the transition to say, hey, Mel is an important part of my business, like my accountant, like my CPA. And they took it upon themselves and terminated the contract. And I'm not the type of person that's going to force you or beg you or make you do business. That's personal choice, but I knew what was going to happen, because there's a lot of other people who claim they sell agencies and do what I do. You can add all of the people who claim they broker agencies up together, and that's not even close to what I've done. I don't advertise it all the time, but I've been doing it. It's kind of like a Q-tip. The Q-tip you put in your ear? That's not really a Q-tip. That's a brand. But if you were first to market, like I'm first to market, I had such a head start on people. And my relation, like Ted would tell you, the relationships that I have with the banks, with the company, even though some people say I'm a little too militant, but that's just who I am in my personality. I have a great relationship. I speak at national conference in Vegas. I speak in Orlando. The banks come in, the company comes in and hires me to evaluate agencies, to work with agents, to work with market leaders. I make everybody a lot of money. So I would say I'm semi-respected. I'm definitely understood, that I know what goes on behind those doors, and I know the changes they make for who they would make them for, so they don't shoot me the same bull that they shoot an average insurance agent. And as Ted was telling you, I'm currently an insurance agent to this day. I own agencies now. Some people don't know that. They think I'm an outside broker intermediary. No, I fight the same battle, the same retention rates, the same loss ratio, these made up numbers that they just throw on us. And all of a sudden, all these years, my loss ratio was up here, but now my bonus is based on loss ratio. It got even higher. I don't know if that's magic. I have no idea how that happened. Look like we got another
Mel,
question.
you might want to share Nicole's information with the folks, and she your right-hand person.
Yes, yeah, she works with, does a lot of evaluations, but it's all on the website. If you go to SAMM Consulting, Nicole works with me also, and I have another gentleman, Steve. It's only 2 or 3 of us normally in here.
I find Nicole very, very quick to respond.
Oh, yeah.
Mel gets tied up at conventions and stuff, so
I
if
travel
I
a
need to
lot.
get a hold of them, I get a hold of Nicole, and her email is just Nicole at sammconsulting.com.
You see, I know some of the names on this sheet. Some of them I don't know, but if you don't, I sell agencies all over the country. And
So Mel, do you have any recommendations for people like in their own area, as far as a relationship with a bank?
Banks are, I like the banks who specialize in doing this. SBA in the last decade or 7 years has got deeply involved in our business because they give people cash flow up front to operate based on the SBA program. Plus they loan a little bit more than the standard banks. They loan based on cash flow. So the 3 ways the banks normally loan: number one, some banks loan on cash flow. They don't care what the interest rates are. They don't care what the retention rate is. They loan based on the cash flow of the business. Second way banks loan on us, they loan on TPP, meaning they'll give you a multiple or percentage of your TPP or contract value for farmers or renewal rates for other carriers. Allstate is more based on TPP, farmers is contract. The third way banks loan is based on earned premium. Your earned premium is what actually renews. You have written premium. I can write $1 million in a month, but only 1/12 of that is earned, which means it's actually renewed. So that's 3 ways that banks loan. There are a lot of banks that are getting to the fold now. The bigger banks and the standard banks that I work with, Allstate Bank is now Wintrust Financial. Same people, same organization. Allstate just divested their interest in Allstate Bank and Allstate Financial to Wintrust Financial. Same president, same loan officer, same everybody. So that's the same people. PPC Loan is another major institution that focuses on insurance lending. They've been doing it 20 years or more since we've been selling. Third, you have SBA lender A7 Funding. Tony Brevard, he's done a great job working with some of the new agents come in. Then you have Capital Resources.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Oak Street. Those are maybe the 5 major lenders. Now, regionally, whether you're in Chicago, Atlanta, Florida, we have a lot of regional banks, and I won't get into each region, individual banks, but you have some regional players that do a good job.
Do you find that people are surprised the difficulty sometimes of getting the book sold, of what they're dealing with in the Allstate realm? Do you find that people are surprised sometimes? I think it's going to be very easy, but then they start kind of getting into it and learning what the banks will and will not do.
Yes, I think the 3 biggest issues that I find when I do buying and selling, and like I say, I operate more as an intermediary. I get paid by the seller, but I spend most of my time with the buyer gaining trust to get a fair value. Is number one is the valuation and the emotional connection that sellers and buyers have. I take all of the emotions out. Only thing I'm emotionally connected to is my family. So I don't get emotionally connected to agencies, numbers, or money. So a lot of buyers sometimes have emotional connection of getting a discount. A lot of sellers think their agency is the best thing since gold. Mel, don't you see this gold watch I have in the bag? Don't you see these flowers and trees? Do you see the palm trees outside? People don't care how nice your office is when you're looking at cash flow. Insurance is a cash flow business, period. So the biggest issue I see is when they go to the banks, unless you know how to paint that picture to make your agency look good to a bank, the lower the bank loans, the lower your sales price will be. Did I answer your question, Leslie?
It did.
Okay.
It did. Thank you.
Second issue I have when people are selling their agency is, number one, sometimes we get so fed up with the bad things we're dealing with that we transfer that energy to a buyer. You cannot sell your agency being negative about the company you represent.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody just asked, can you list the name of your lenders? I think I just did that, so that has to be a whole question. Or they want me to
I just said maybe Nancy can filter through that list, but
Or you
this
can
will be
get it-
recorded, so you can go back through too and get that list of what Mel just said.
Yeah. And yes, I do exclusive contracts. Some people say, do I do non-exclusive? Yes. I used to when I was a young country boy, I would sell, you could sell it and I could sell it, but I would be selling against myself. Because of course, if you're listing your agency somewhere else and when you get the same price as me, you don't have to pay me, then that means I'm working for fun. And trust me, I do not want to work for fun.
Mm-mm.
So no, all mine is similar to a real estate transaction. Now, what I will tell you is if I'm going to make money, you're going to lose money, we're not going to do it. If my client's going to lose money and I'm going to make money, I'm not going to do the deal. My job is to make agents money. If I don't bring value to people, I don't want to do the deal. I only do this to bring value. Plus, I like making money, but I do it to bring value. I want to help agents make more money. If you can make more money without me, I'm going to say, go be blessed. And people who done this with me, go ahead.
I'm going to jump here and give a little bit of a promotion for Mel and the other folks who are helping agents buy and sell their agencies. Is it all has to do about relationships that these brokers have with Allstate management, knowing what management wants to hear, and buying the buyer and seller and the company all together. And you got to have all three of those, or that transaction not going to go through. So if you're dealing with someone who does not know Allstate, does not have any ties with Allstate, the chances of you selling are a lot more difficult than having someone who knows the system and has people that they can talk to. Would you not agree with that, Mel?
Oh yeah, definitely. What we do and what I do and what the other people who sell agencies, is our relationships. You have to have a good relationship with the company. And they don't have to like me. I tell them, you ain't never got to like me. You're going to respect what I do, and I'm going to bring value. So you want to have somebody who has a connection. And I know you might say, well, my market leader is a jerk. He's not going to help me. But his job is to make sure they find new candidates. And if he don't do his job, trust me, I know how to make people do their job. If they don't do the job, I can tell them I can find somebody who can do it for you. So yeah, I'm a little different. I'm not really a asky nice person. If I deal with a market leader, of course I'm respectful and I want us to be on a good working relationship, but I expect him to do my job, do his job. Because I got to do my job every day. If your job is to help, so say Frank wants to sell his agency, you need to approve the candidate. And we have to have the carrier's approval to bring on a candidate. Their job is not to vet the candidate to say if it's a good deal or not, or to be talking about my price and how much I'm selling my agency for, even though they get involved in that. And I keep that out of it. And some people use me for strictly negotiation. I tell people all the time, how many agencies do you have for sale? And normally it's just one. I got 100. So I'm always going to have leverage in negotiation because I'm able to tell a seller, or excuse me, a buyer, hey, if you don't want to buy it, I got 20 people who are interested in it. Or I will sell it to somebody else. So I want to make sure it's a fair value, not overpriced, not underpriced. I want to find a fair value.
Do you see yourself connecting buyers and sellers often with working with so many people?
Yeah, that's all I do is connect buyers and sellers. But I do it for the sellers that I represent. So, you can't just call me and say, hey, Mel, list my agency and give me all my buyers. I represent the agents that have hired my firm to sell them. And yes, it's exclusive. Now, sometimes you might say, okay, Mel, I want you to represent me, but my cousin said he might buy my book. Will you exclude him? So I'll do exclusion like that sometimes. But if you give me like 3 names to exclude, I'm going to tell you, you go ahead and try to sell your agency. If it doesn't sell, call me. And if
Fair
you
enough.
feel, and people don't just pay me to find.
Well, you don't work for free, huh?
No.
I do my charity work. If y'all know my foundation, Superheroes, that's my free. Salvation Army is my free. But Sam, I actually expect to get paid and bring value and do a good job. If I don't do a good job and you don't think I did my job, then no, I don't expect to get paid. But when I do my job, if I'm making hamburgers at McDonald's, I want to get paid for making my hamburgers. But somebody,
hey guys, I'm gonna break in. It's been about 45 minutes. And Mel didn't have any water with him. We doing all this talking. So, first of all, Mel's very well respected. He's been a friend of the Allstate agent, been a friend of Napa for years and years. He probably is correct when he tells you he's probably sold more agencies than the rest of them combined out there. I don't have verification, but I would believe him on that. And what you get with Mel is a straight shooter. He's not going to pull in punches. when agents call me about who to talk to about being a broker, he's always one of the top three. I always tell three. I don't just do one at a time. He's always one of the top three that I would tell you to trust. On succession planning, I would tell you that he's probably one of the few brokers, if only broker, who helps agents buy and sell, who also does succession planning. So I really do think that he has the heart of a teacher out there and wants to educate people. And will be fair with you. Very talented guy. I appreciate you taking the 45, 50 minutes. It's been an hour now for us out there. So guys, contact him or contact Nicole out there. They do a great job. They're responsive. It's not time for do-it-yourself plumbing when you're going to try to sell your agency. You can lose a lot of money if you don't get the right people, the right places to give you advice, to give you suggestions, and to help you market your program. And the worst of all is to die without a will, die intestate, die without a plan. Because once you have died, there's no recreating a plan that doesn't exist. So Mel, I thank you very much for holding this session for us. Any last questions? Leslie, got anything?
I don't see any. I think I'm good. I always can come up with more questions because it's interesting to me, but I just want to thank everybody for taking their time out today and being with us and joining in on our NAPA educational programs that we are working very hard to provide. And if you're not a member, we encourage you to join in because we've got some great stuff going on.
Mel, last comment. So you're the last guy.
You're
up.
it.
I appreciate y'all listening. Hope I brought value to the conversation, to your plan. If you need succession planning, go out and seek one because we all need it. And if I can help you in the future, go to SAMM Consulting, or you can call the office and somebody hopefully will help you. Be blessed, man, and keep fighting the good fight, as we say.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.